What do you take about this notion that some people are so bullish on Tesla, then they will just change their angle, they'll just switch automatically? Why does that happen, guys?
Well, I'll just say for me, like it has changed a little bit. I'm just being honest. Like I love the community, but the story has changed a little bit. And you know, in 2018, like when I got involved, 2019, the stock was a growth machine. And over the last year or two, growth is now slowing. And earnings, for me, that was the big thing. Earnings is starting to slow. And when you're decreasing your earnings year over year. I know long term it doesn't matter. A lot of the bullish community with bots and everything and FSD, but these things are going to be hard to pull off. These are not like guaranteed things. And some of the valuation I think is in those things. And the longer those things take, and as the car business maybe decelerates and they keep cutting price, the earnings keep going low. So my whole thing with Tesla moving forward is, can the earnings at least hold up to support the valuation from the car business so that energy and bots can get funded, A, and B, can those things come along quick enough where the valuation stays supported from those earnings? So that's the risk to, I think, right now, the Tesla story. With the earnings coming in and cars just being a little bit, in this macro environment, they're not really growing like they used to, and they're cutting price. Earnings is taking a big hit. Now you could say, well, I don't matter. But to me, it does matter, because if those earnings go down so low, the valuation of Tesla, the multiple is just expanding. And a lot of investors don't like a growth story that's slowing down their growth. So, just long story short, I just think that the stock's challenged right now. And I'll just say, I love Elon. I think Elon's the greatest entrepreneur ever. Everybody knows that. But, you know, his dealings on X, which I love because I'm a big free speech guy. I think that's amazing. It has hurt a little bit of the sentiment on Tesla stock, and the institutions control the stock. It's not retail. So I think when you put everything together, Tesla's just in a very challenged environment from the earnings story and the CEO. And we saw it again. We should talk about it. The 25% that came out of nowhere. So I think something like that gives some investors pause, because okay, he kind of intimated that maybe he doesn't go as hard on AI if he doesn't get his holdings up where he feels comfortable that the AI will be safe. So I think that's an uncertainty, and markets hate uncertainty. So I think that's another thing that gives investors pause. So I'll just leave it at that. But I think
Yeah.
those things cause investors to question the investment.
Gali, what's your response to him about this is an earnings only? He seems to think Tesla is only a auto business. What's your response to that?
Well, I'm reminded of like Amazon stock for a while, which a lot of people, it had like, break even earnings for years, but it kept growing its top line. And I always think about, it's like intrinsic value. Like, is the intrinsic value growing? Like maybe the financials aren't telling the whole story, but it's been a little bit of a sobering few quarters where we're like, price cuts happen. That's really hurting margins, cyclical business. Elon's always said the car business isn't that good of a business. And I think we're seeing that play out. But at the same time, it's like important to remember where Tesla started from. Like, $1 billion or $2 billion in earnings a quarter is now like a bad quarter when we used to be losing money. So now we're still profitable. But I think like the earnings power of Tesla on a normalized basis right now is still $10 to $20 billion. And I'd say that justifies, with a high PE ratio, the $600 or $700 billion valuation we have now. So I started to think Tesla's like very fairly valued right here when you consider like, okay, a little bit of a premium on the auto business, but it's really growing. Then you got energy, then you got bots. But so that's why I see this fair price. And I'm like, I don't think I personally have been like getting bullish and wanting to add more stock here as it kind of comes down, because I think a lot of the expectations and the decreasing earnings has been priced into the stock. But I do think that is like a great point that you bring up there. It's like, yeah, if the earnings, if you want to be worth $1 trillion, and then you got to really put up earnings or sell a story, because that's a huge valuation and big shoes to fill.
Yeah, let's go to you, Alexandra. Do you want to respond to what he said, or do you want to ask Gali a question?
Well, I would like to keep on the same subject because I think it's really interesting. So what is happening? Why do the investors in Tesla shift, and why is the mood what it is? I mean, first of all, I think we're out of that initial honeymoon phase where, all then Twitter friends were fighting FUD. And I know it was brutal, but it was also very mission driven. It wasn't so much about the stock price. It was about survival. It was about, getting the truth out. And that phase is over just because there are so many more investors. There's so much more attention to Tesla. And so it has become one of the established stocks. While it's an established stock, most people don't want to recognize it is still a huge assembly of different venture capital projects, right? I mean, of course, cars has matured, but even cars, when you see FSD and robotaxi, still has, a huge expansion in front of it, which is risky, which may work or may not work. So you have a big lot of the Gary Blacks of this world that value what they can see and what they can extrapolate, but really based on, current and then projections, but don't take into account any of the fantasy or any of the venture capitalist parts of it. And at the same time, you have an Elon that drives this like in the good old days with the passion for certain things, with a certain poker mentality of what he's putting his attention on and how he's going to do it, while being ultra conservative, not having debt, being very careful that free cash flow covers what he wants to do, sometimes pulling back, sometimes going ahead. So it's just not as stable as an Apple under Tim Cook, or as, what people love in foreseeability. Now, add to that the purchase of X, the politics, the noise that comes because he's attacked from all sides, and it just makes this story stock. And I loved your Kardashian mention, Gali, because the other thing is that there are other Kardashian sisters around, right? So I don't know whether Khloe is NVIDIA or whether Kylie is, I don't know, AMD. But the thing is that for investors in this field, in this growth field, there are some other sexy stories around. I mean, they may not be as sexy as the first one, but they have something else. So we are in a competitive field for stock investors, and Tesla is sometimes in a burned out period where people just don't want to get in, even shorten it. I mean, we're only at 3% short, so nothing comparable to 2019, but it's still competing for attention, for positive attention, and there are other sexier girls around at the moment.
NVIDIA is very sexy.
There you go. So which sister?
I have one idea to add to that, which I think Tesla's, and I'm really curious what y'all think of this, is we're such an interesting moment that I've never seen for a stock this big, where it still has that venture capital, like you said, businesses. And so you're valuing Tesla. I'd say it's a little overvalued if it's just the car business and energy.
Correct.
But then you're pricing in this optionality of Tesla bot, FSD. And so I think that's a super fascinating game that the markets are playing of trying to price in, just we've never seen in financial markets an opportunity as big as the Tesla bot. And it's like, well, it's a few years out, but they're making crazy progress. I don't want to ignore it, but I don't want to give it all the value. So I think the stock market is in this crazy game right now of trying to figure out how much value to put on FSD and Tesla bot, and that's getting layered onto the core business. So if you look at it with just the core business, it looks super expensive, but if you look at it with those future things in mind, it looks super cheap. And that's
And do you, I mean, I don't know whether you follow that as much as we do, but how Adam Jonas, who is one of the only ones that puts actually price targets on each individual bit of how he comes to his $380 price target, and there is FSD in it, and there is robotaxi in it, there's Dojo in it, and all that, how he gets attacked by the rest of Wall Street, it is incredible. I mean, if they could just make him shut up, that would be the glory of their day. So there's also this tension within Wall Street among the banks. They hate Morgan Stanley because obviously it has privileged access to Tesla and to Elon. There's so much happening. I mean, every day.
Yeah, that was well put.
Right.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. Yeah,
I think it comes down to trust of Elon when it comes to this valuation. If as Gali said, with the optionality, you're really investing in what Tesla says that they're going to do. So if they're moving towards bots and FSD, I purchased the cars and buy the FSD because I want to experience it for myself. I don't want to watch videos. I want to know that Tesla is making progress and understand what it means, for V12 with the 300,000 lines of code to 3,000, and how does that work? So if Wall Street and some of the OGs are losing faith here, that the promise is coming, that it's coming. So I think it puts the stock under pressure, especially if you're tweeting or posting about politics, and people get frustrated. It's interesting when the 25% conversation occurred, to go into some of the community rooms and hear what people are talking about, and just how pissed off people are saying, Elon can take his take his shares and go. And I've never heard that from the community before, in this regard, like from some of these OGs. So I think it's just a matter of impatience. And from what I see and from the videos that Tesla's putting out, they're continuing to march forward. So I have lost zero faith in Elon and the team. I think if anything, the management has been superb.
I wanted to add here that Jeff and I have been investing in Tesla since 2012. And I have an opinion. The opinion is this. When I invested in 2012, there was massive risk. This company could go down. It was a startup. It barely was selling, hundreds of thousands of cars. But the opportunity was pretty big, right? They're going to revolutionize EV. Today, this is a safe investment. Today, this business has $26 billion. The financials are strong. They're leading in electric vehicles. And yet the opportunity is probably 10, 50, or 100 times bigger than it was in 2012. So for me, the story for Tesla has even gotten better and better and better every year. And yet we have all these stories, people going, oh my God, earnings are down the next year and 2 years. And, it's going to be flat. Sure, maybe the stock will go flat, but this is a safe. Of course, there's always risk. I don't want to say this is risky, but I mean, you're talking about a mega cap company that's fairly strong in terms of their market. And then there's these big, giant option plays that's going to just blow this open.